The part of the season that doesn't end, is not over, is the transfer portal aspect of things. Nebraska's already up to double-digit additions. We heard even after the bowl game now, Jaylen Lloyd is entering the portal. So kind of an interesting trend there, guys. I mean, we've seen a host of Huskers leave, and some of that's trying to get down to 105. Some of that's because of financial opportunities or playing opportunities elsewhere. But of that group, you have a bunch of in-state receivers that have left. Malachi Coleman has left. Devon Hall, Isaiah McMorris, Isaiah Neyor, not an in-state guy, but another receiver moving on, and now Jaylen Lloyd. Is this something to be, I don't know, concerned about, to take note of when you see these receivers leaving? Or is this just a result of, hey, Nebraska recruited over a lot of these guys when they're bringing in the likes of Isaiah Hunter and others to bolster this room?
Well, I'll take a stab at this, I guess.
Yeah.
A lot of this is when you get a new coach, and I see this in college basketball, wherever college baseball, whatever. And he's got to retool the roster. Um, and they get here. Last year it was early December, and he's putting together his staff, and the portal's going on. In any case. Um, you got to decide if you want to keep the guys you have or not, and they did. They also went out and got some guys, but um, the first the first recruiting class, especially a short um, sort of a short scheduled staff that just got there and has to get players. Um, you're going to get guys just because you need guys, and they're not necessarily going to be on your roster 4 years. They're not necessarily going to work out. They're just going to get players. So I think there's a little bit of that. Um, the transfer portal's changed everything for high school kids, especially. And you see what you got, and then you say, "Well, I need something better." And so you went out last year and got Banks and Nayor, and for a guy like Jaylen Lloyd, he had a decent year, and then they went out and got two guys. They weren't satisfied; they wanted more. Well, they did that again this year. He's standing there looking, watching, and they just went out and got two older receivers, accomplished guys. Um, this is the pattern for. It doesn't mean the receivers from Nebraska aren't good. It just means coaches have options. If they don't like what they have, or if they want better, they can go get them. And so, and then this happened 2 years in a row to Lloyd. So, or they went out and got two other guys. So it sends a message. And I don't know what that's why he's leaving, or if it's money, or if it's this or that, or it could be Daniel Holgerson wants to go out and get a different type of back or different type of receiver. It could be Daniel Holgerson wants guys who are going to block. I don't know anything about Jalen Lloyd's blocking, but I can promise you the blocking will be a very important thing now in this offense for everybody. And that's why I think Harburg is going to have a hell of a chance to start next year, because I saw him throw two devastating blocks last Saturday in that game, and that's that's the way to a coach's heart. So I would just say that um, I don't think that there's some great message about in-state players. They have their chance, and you got when you're building a program, you got to make an impression. You got to do it quick. And I've said this before, and this applies to every position. Um, Maybe the best way to get playing time is to go somewhere else and then come back. Go um, to South Dakota State or Ball State or North Texas or somewhere, get on the field, get a resume, and then come back and get paid. Because coaches like to talk about developing, but the actions speak louder than words. And these guys want older players. I can't blame them. So um, it's you know, it's just kind of where we are right now. It's like, you know, one example was Daniel Kaelin, the quarterback from Bellevue West. He left to go to Virginia, thinking he'd probably play. The day after he committed to Virginia, Virginia went out and signed another quarterback from North Texas, who's an older guy, and they're probably bringing him in to start. So that's kind of where that is right now. You just, if for high school kids, it's tough um, because they can't. It's like the old thing. Well, you need experience. Well, how do I get experience? Well, that's a good question. You got to go somewhere and play.
Yeah, I mean, I think those are all really good thoughts. I think Jaylen Lloyd had a role with his team going forward, and maybe he feels like he wants to be a 50 to 60 snap a game guy or 40 to 50 snap a game guy, and he only played three against Boston College, but Nebraska had a game plan, and there was going to be a game plan going into that game. I think it'd be great if Lloyd came back. I doesn't don't think that's probably going to happen. He'd probably stay in the portal, but yeah, I think there's certainly some things to consider going forward about how you recruit, who you're recruiting, what their understanding about their role is going to be, and it's absolutely true that Nebraska's going to go out and sign receivers. They're not going to just stand pat with everybody they have in the room, unless those players are developing at a rate that is equal to the players that they're getting out of the portal. And Dane Key, we can talk specifically about him as a hell of a receiver. He's been a 3-year starter at Kentucky, a team that he had three different starting quarterbacks. One was really good, Will Levis. The other two, not quite as good. And he's been good all the way along. I mean, he has the potential to be, 1,000-yard receiver at Nebraska. He's probably the second best receiver they've signed out of the portal other than Trey Palmer. So you go get that guy. The other guy is going to have 3 years left too, and he's a bigger body guy. Jaylen Lloyd, has to fight for reps and all those things. I think he'd be better suited doing that at Nebraska. Obviously, he and his camp don't believe that. As you look at the in-state receivers, though, I think what Tom says is absolutely right in the sense that like you have to go down and make an impression. And I don't know if there's like a sense of, well, we did Nebraska solid by coming to Nebraska, and so now that we've done that, we have to be, get an opportunity. And I sort of understand that, but at the same time, you're gonna have to earn your scholarship every single year now in this new era, and it's tough a little bit. Sometimes I feel like to add to what Tom said, he's like, well, Tom's like, go somewhere else, get a resume, and then come back. I would add, go somewhere else so that you can go somewhere else and see what life is like somewhere else so that you don't worry. You're not always thinking about how the grass could be greener somewhere else. Like sometimes you just got to go. I always remember that story about the guy that went to Gonzaga, the point guard who went there, who's now in the NBA. And he made this comment. He was a football and basketball player, superstar from a couple of years ago. And he made this comment. He's like, well, Minnesota didn't recruit me. And I'm like, that's not true. That's not true. You're the best basketball player in the country. Of course they recruited you. You just didn't want to go there. And there's a lot of really great high school basketball players in this city that just didn't want to go to Nebraska. And it doesn't have to be about Nebraska not being the right fit. These are guys that turned Nebraska down once, twice, three times. I mean, there's a guy that it's Wisconsin who's having a great season who probably could have come to Nebraska two different times after he transferred from Colorado State. He didn't have to. He came to Nebraska. He went to the schools he went to, and there's nothing wrong with that. And John Tonji's having a great season at Wisconsin right now. But these guys, Nebraska wanted some of these guys, and these guys just don't want to come to Nebraska, and that's fine. I think in football, you're going to continue to see, situations like this until Nebraska gets good enough that staying at Nebraska is of greater value than just the reps that you can get there. Like, you know what I mean? Like if Nebraska were 11-1, I don't know if you transfer because it's like, well, I'm a part of a really, really good program. And maybe I won't catch, 47 passes next year, but I'll catch 18, and those 18 are going to get the attention of NFL scouts because they're going to be watching every game we play. And I think that's where Nebraska has to get with in-state players and with other players. They just have to reach that point. There's nothing wrong with leaving the state and going and getting yours somewhere else, whether it's to build your resume or to get opportunities or to just go see somewhere else in the world. I do think that Nebraska would take Jaylen Lloyd back, and it would be and I think adding him back to the fold would be a nice add, so to speak, even though he's in the portal. And I felt the same way about Kaelin. I do. I think the guy they got from Purdue is fine. He probably throws a harder ball than Kaelin, but I think Kaelin would have been a good backup too. And Tom makes the point about how Virginia signed a guy. Well, Virginia's also got a coach that if he doesn't have a winning season next year, he may not be there. He
That's
just may not be there because he's had, and he obviously had the tragedy a couple of years ago, but they have not had a winning season yet under that coach. And so like he's maybe on a mild seat, and that's kind of be tough to transfer to a school where you're not sure if there's going to be a head coach. So, sometimes it's good to stay and sometimes it's right to leave.
Hey, real quick on the portal too. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on what Nebraska has to do still in January to feel good about the portal haul. So they're up to 11 additions to this point, um, but they're not done yet. They have a couple of visitors coming here in early January, a couple defensive linemen. Offensive line pretty clearly remains a priority. Those targets, at least the new ones, haven't really quite emerged yet. Is that, I mean, are you guys kind of looking at maybe a pair of linemen on each side to finish out this portal class, or what maybe has to happen to take it from, hey, this has been a pretty good haul to yes, this satisfies sort of the needs that they have going into next season?
I wouldn't turn down a middle linebacker if you're able to find a really good one after some of these teams get eliminated from their bowls or eliminated from the playoffs. I think they need two offensive linemen, and obviously they feel like they need more defensive linemen. And that may be projecting that they think maybe somebody's going to leave that's currently there. But I think I put this in one of my columns or stories over the weekend. Tyber Robinson's going to be really hard to replace. Really hard. I mean, that guy kicked Boston College's ass. I mean, he really pounded them and made life very hard for Boston College. To me, he's the biggest reason why they won the game. And he just played incredible football all day long in terrible weather. And so I don't know how you replace that, man. I mean, Gabe Moore is not going to do that. And I'm not trying to knock the Mississippi State defensive tackle transfer. Williams Nwaneri might be able to do that in a couple of years because he has the frame to do it. But I don't know. They're going to have to find a way to piece together how they replace Ty because Ty was really good this year. And we don't want to underrate how good he was. I mean, he played at an NFL level caliber this year. So a couple defensive linemen, absolutely the offensive linemen. They don't know if Turner Corcoran and Teddy Prohaska are going to be healthy or not. So uh, they know what they're doing there. And then do they go get a running back? Do they go get one? They obviously on the biggest play of the game, and Ramir Johnson deserved the MVP for sure. He did an incredible job in that game and deserved it. But on the biggest play of the game, that's when Dante Dowdell would have been in the game, and Ramir Johnson's carrying that football. They do not have a power back unless they believe Quentin Ives is going to be that player. Unless it's Quentin Ives, they do not have a power back. Marion Parker's not that guy, and Mekhi Nelson, who I like, is also not that guy. So um, they have to feel good about Quentin Ives, and that'll be something they have to determine in the next the next couple of months because you can go get it back in the summer, and they damn well may. They may go through spring and say, okay, let's go get our power back now, and there will be a couple of guys available who will cost a lot of money, a lot, because the summer guys cost more because they're at a premium.
um, let me ask a stupid question, which I like to do. Is the transfer portal open or closed? I thought it closed on Saturday.
Yes, but teams that play a game then have 5 more days their players
Okay,
do. So
okay,
Nebraska guys can still enter through, well, right about now, uh,
yeah, this is
middle of
it.
this week.
Yeah,
Grad transfers can move at any time, so that's a little bit of a different deal as well. And then you can add anytime. So it closes for the guys who are submitting papers to go into the portal But so the next deadline for Nebraska
Okay.
now becomes its
If you're
academic
in, yeah,
schedule.
there are guys who are in who haven't been chosen yet. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So
It's all
Nebraska
very
has now a
confusing.
few more weeks until classes start to
Yeah,
get guys in and in the fold for spring.
I think they could wait until May to go get a power back if they feel like they have to. And again, I don't know. You got to keep some money left over. Haven Fields and Sean Padden and Troy Dannon, and Matt Rule have to figure out how much money do you leave left over, rev share money to apportion if you need a guy in the summer,
yeah,
because that's gonna cost you because there's going to be fewer guys. Now there's a greater risk in going into the portal in the summer too because do you want to bring in a guy? But Nebraska's need for a power back may well be there, and we'll just see. And I won't surprise me at all if they add an offensive lineman in the summer, but they could get that guy, and that could be a developmental guy. They have a lot to do on the offensive line. They know that. We can talk about that a different day, but they have a lot to do there, and they're busy working on it.